So Families First has been in existence for, I think, 28 years, almost 30 years. And this year is budgeted to see about 500 families. So about 100 of those families will be scholarship families. That means donor dollars paid for our costs for us to see those families. Families First specialist goes into the home and they work in that home about 49 hours on average, and somewhere in the average of 8 hours or so a week.
And what we do is really simple, is just say, you know what, you're right. You're the expert on your family, and I'm an expert in the teaching family model. I'm here to help you meet your goals. And let's partner with the family and not come in and say, listen, here's all my credentials and experience. And then as we start teaching them these skills that are based on their strengths, and they start to see those work, then they're like, oh, this works, oh my gosh. And it's usually just little changes. But once they see results, we're off to the races. Like, that's why we get such great outcomes.
The reality is, if you're parented in a certain way, that only way you know how to parent is what you've experienced. And so Families First really goes in and teaches parents how to parent differently. And so you start looking at family trajectory really changing, even if it's a little bit right now. 5 years, 10 years, 20 years looks really different for that family.
We do get great outcomes. If you have a therapist and they see a kid for a year and they're going to spend 50 hours with this young person. Families First, we're going to spend 50 hours with them in 12 weeks. In a fourth of the time, we're going to spend very intensive time, and we're going to get almost what's double clinically significant change in that same amount of time.
We're super excited this year that, based on 15 plus years of research, the Federal Clearinghouse deemed us as a well-supported program.
And so we were officially added to the Clearinghouse in June of this year. So what they require is at least one thoroughly completed research study that shows at least 12 months of a treatment effect. We actually had two, one through the criminal justice system and the other one through DCFS, and both of those came out as statistically significant changes and impacts at least over the next year.
Families First families 85% complete successfully and are not returning to any kind of a state system within a year. That's big success, right? That's exactly what we want to see. Without Families First, I think there's a lot higher risk of a lot of other kids being in foster care. A lot of kids experiencing neglect and abuse that doesn't change because parents aren't given new tools, and not because they don't want to do something different, they just simply don't know how.
My name is Kate Anderson, and I have 3 kids that I've raised completely on my own. When my youngest was about 2 years old, we left, and I got divorced from their dad, who had mental health issues and is really struggled with himself and keeping a job and is now homeless, and with no education and having to take care of them all on my own and no child support. So we started out in government housing. So we started out in Section 8 housing, and I worked a lot of jobs. I mowed lawns, I checked water meters, I taught fitness classes, and I still just wasn't making it. It was after, I think, our house got broken into, and I decided to go back to school. And so I continued to work and went to nursing school, and I had a sister who helped me and was awesome enough to help me with my kids while I graduated from nursing school, and that was a really hard time in my life. So thanks to sleeping in my car and Del Taco, we were able to definitely, we made it through nursing school. So, and after school I thought my life would get a lot easier because I was done with the hard part, and I thought I have a good job now and I can afford my kids, and we were even able to buy our own house, and things weren't getting easier.
Because we were always yelling and trying to get everybody to do something. Or my mom would never listen to us or spend time with us very much, and my little brother would cause lots of fights and punch holes in the wall and just act very out of control.
It wasn't until I think my oldest was involved in the law. We had issues with him, we had issues with suicide, we had issues with my kids getting in trouble at school and getting calls from principals and counselors, and every day just wondering who's gonna call while I was at work. I just felt like my home was chaos. I had tried everything my hardest. I knew I was doing my best, but it wasn't working. I needed help.
So the Andersons were referred to us by Youth Services. Kate was struggling with her children respecting her in her home and being able to set some boundaries. She worked a lot of hours, wasn't home a lot.
I didn't even know what I was stepping into. I just remember thinking, like, what is this? What are we doing? Like, why do I want to do this, you know? But at that point, I just thought, I've tried everything my way as hard as I could. I'm just gonna do this, and I'm not gonna quit.
It was really annoying having a random lady tell us what to do and kind of just take charge of everything. But after a while, I got used to it.
What was she like?
Like Nanny McPhee.
We set goals, we talked about current issues that we had, you know, what kid's doing what do we have problems with? Well, how do I solve this problem? How do I do this? I remember one of the activities she had me and my kids write down what did we like about our home, what did we not like about our home? And then they were left on the counter. And so we talked about them a little bit, but mostly I sat and I read those and I was heartbroken.
Her kids would come home from school and she would never know where they were. She was at work, but she wanted them to check in with her. So we did a lot of role playing on they got home from school, they called her. And we would practice this over and over again until they were doing this and it was routine. You know, she would reward them after school when she got home so that they knew it was important to them and important to her as well.
I came home and they knew what was expected. When I was getting calls at work and I was answering, I'm like, why are you calling? You told me to check in. Oh, yeah, yes, thank you for checking in. You know, like, it was just things that I didn't think about, but made my life easier.
She'd make us do things like 3 times in a row. And she helped us with checking in and disagreeing appropriately and just speaking more nicely to our mom.
And I worked on effective consequences, and the kids learned how to accept decisions of authority. Instead of complaining and arguing with her,
Well, like, instead of demanding what we want, she'd have us ask, like, if we could talk about it or, like, why we couldn't go do this instead of just a complete no.
the kids also worked on how to deal with their frustrations and set up good coping skills and how to better communicate how they felt.
And it reflected everywhere else in my kids' life. My oldest was happier, was less depressed. My middle child really took more responsibility with her own homework.
There gets to be that point where when I go for a visit, or she'll call me and she'll say, hey, this happened and this is what I did.
Take a chance and be willing to try something different. Let somebody come in and teach you skills that maybe you've never tried before and that are uncomfortable and they're not going to be easy.
The relationship with my mom is different because we don't yell anymore. When she used to ask me to do something, I used to not do it, but now I do it the first time she asks.
I've definitely gotten a better relationship with my mom. We definitely talk more and spend more time together.
It worked. It worked. I feel like Families First also gave me the backbone that I needed. We had some major cries and tantrums. Shauna saw some embarrassing tantrums and things that I don't think most people would want other people to see in their home. I would say she looked past them. She looked past our tantrums. She looked past our fighting, my kids swearing, and said, all right, let's go forward. What are we gonna do? How are we gonna change this? How can we solve this? And we came to a solution. We worked together.
The well-supported evidence-based ranking is tremendous, and it will help Families First continue to grow to every community in Utah. But with that comes more of a wait list. Last year at this time, we were close to 2 years out, and in large part, almost solely because of this gala last year, the fundraising that was achieved, we're now down to 6 to 7 months. That's huge. Well, we've knocked 18 months off of a wait list. That's tremendous. But we're still 6 or 7 months out. Imagine being a family who really needs help, and then we're not be able to get to them for 6 months. Hang on for 6 months. What's gonna happen is they're gonna end up in the system, and we're gonna see them come through the courts or DCFS. We have to be able to get to families in less time. That scholarship list really is true prevention services. We're preventing kids from even coming into the system, which is what our end goal is. If we can do that, then we'll have done a great job.